Welcome to today's meditation. Find a comfortable position and let your eyes close when you're ready. Before we begin, a brief reflection on today's theme. We confuse strength with hardness. We think being strong means not flinching, not bending, not letting anything in. But the strongest people you know are not the ones with walls. They are the ones who can sit with a crying child and not rush to fix it. The ones who can say, "I was wrong," without crumbling. The ones who stay soft in a world that rewards armor. Real strength is not about force. It is about choosing tenderness when closing off would be easier. Today, we sit with that. The kind of strength that does not clench. The kind that stays open. Let your body arrive. Feel where you are right now, the weight of your legs, the contact between your body and whatever is supporting you. Notice your hands. Are they clenched, even slightly? See if they can soften, not go limp. Just release the grip. Notice your jaw. Let it drop a fraction. Your shoulders. Let them melt down just slightly. You don't need to become a puddle. Just a little less armor. And your breath. Not controlling it, just feeling it come and go. Each exhale a small release. Each inhale a small receiving. That's it for now. Just being here. We grow up learning a particular version of strength. Don't cry. Toughen up. Don't let them see you sweat. And there is something useful in that. Sometimes you do need to push through. But somewhere along the way, the useful became the only option. Pushing through became the default, not just for hard moments, for all moments. And now you walk around braced for impact, even when nothing is coming. Think about how you handle a difficult conversation. When someone you love says something that stings, what happens first? Most of us tighten. The walls go up. We become a fortress. And from inside that fortress, we fire back, or we shut down, or we pretend it didn't land. That feels like strength. But it's actually fear wearing a costume. real strength in that moment would look completely different. It would be saying, "That hurt," and staying in the room, not collapsing, not attacking, not leaving, just being honest about the impact while staying present. That takes more courage than any wall ever could. And it's not just in the big moments. It's in the small ones. When your kid asks you a question and you don't know the answer, do you bluff or do you say, "I have no idea. Let's find out together"? When a friend asks how you're doing, do you say fine on autopilot or do you pause and tell the truth? Honestly, I'm tired. I'm figuring some stuff out. That one sentence can change a relationship, not because it's dramatic, but because it's real. We're terrified of being seen as weak, so we perform. We perform competence at work. We perform patience with our kids. We perform happiness on social media. And performing is exhausting. Because performance requires constant vigilance. You can never let the mask slip. Tender strength is what happens when you put the mask down. Not because you don't care what people think, but because the weight of it is no longer worth carrying. Notice your body right now, just briefly. Are you bracing against anything? Even here in stillness, with nothing threatening you, are you holding yourself tight? Old habits run deep. See if you can soften just 1%. Here's the paradox nobody talks about. The people who never show weakness are the most fragile because they've built their entire identity on not breaking. So when something finally cracks the surface, and it always does, they don't know what to do. They shatter because they never practiced bending. A tree that refuses to bend in the wind snaps. A tree that sways survives the storm and is still standing the next morning. Flexibility is not weakness. Flexibility is what makes things last. Think about the relationships in your life that have lasted, the ones that survived arguments and distance and disappointment. They lasted because someone was willing to bend. Someone was willing to say, I see your point. Someone was willing to apologize first, even when it wasn't entirely their fault. That's not weakness. That's the muscle that holds relationships together. And it gets stronger every time you use it. Think about someone you go to when things fall apart. Not the person who tells you to suck it up. Not the one who fixes everything. The one who just sits with you. Who says, yeah, this is hard. Who doesn't flinch when you cry. That person is not weak. That person is the strongest person in the room. Because they can hold someone else's pain without running from it, without fixing it, without making it about themselves. That's tender strength. Now turn that inward. How do you treat yourself when you're struggling? Do you sit with yourself the way that person sits with you? Or do you crack the whip? Get over it. Move on. Stop being so sensitive. If you wouldn't say it to someone you love, why do you say it to yourself? Tender strength toward yourself looks like this. Noticing you're exhausted and resting. Instead of pushing through for the third day in a row. Noticing you made a mistake and saying, okay, now I know. Instead of replaying it for a week. Noticing you're overwhelmed and asking for help. Instead of pretending you can handle everything alone. None of that is soft. All of it takes guts. Here's what most people get wrong. They think tenderness is something you can only afford when things are going well. When you're safe. When nothing is at stake. When the pressure is off. But that's actually when it's easiest. Anyone can be tender on vacation. The real test is being tender when you're under pressure. When your boss is pushing you. When the bills are stacking up. When your kid is having a meltdown in the grocery store and everyone is watching. in those moments, everything in you wants to harden, to clench, to power through. And sometimes that's the right call. But sometimes the braver thing is to pause, to get down on one knee in that grocery store, to look your child in the eye, to be soft when everyone expects you to be hard. That changes things, not just for the child, for you. Because every time you choose tenderness under pressure, you prove to yourself that you don't need the armor, that you can be open and still be okay. There's a reason this is hard. Tenderness requires you to feel things, and feeling things can be terrifying when you've spent years building walls to avoid exactly that. The armor works. It keeps things out. But it keeps everything out. The pain, yes, but also the connection, the warmth, the closeness. You can't selectively numb. When you shut down the hard stuff, the good stuff gets muted too. There's a specific kind of courage in being tender with someone who has hurt you. Not forgiving them because you're supposed to. Not pretending it didn't happen. But being willing to see them as a whole person. Someone who is also afraid, also struggling, also making it up as they go. That doesn't excuse anything, but it opens a door that anger keeps locked. And there's courage in being tender with your own past, with the version of you that made bad decisions, the version that stayed too long or left too soon, the version that knew better but did it anyway. You can carry that like a weapon pointed at yourself, or you can carry it like a scar, something that healed, something that taught you, something that's part of you now. Both require acknowledging the wound. Only one lets you move forward. Let your shoulders drop again. They probably crept back up without you noticing. That's how armor works. It reinstalls itself constantly. So the practice isn't removing it once. It's noticing when it comes back. And gently, again and again, choosing to soften. There's a kind of strength we don't celebrate enough. The strength to be wrong, to change your mind when new information shows up. We admire people who stick to their guns. But sometimes sticking to your guns is just stubbornness wearing a medal. The tender version of strength says, I used to think this. Now I think something different. That's called learning. No drama, no shame, no elaborate explanation. Just honesty. And the strength to be in process rather than finished. To be a work in progress without treating that as a problem. Most people are trying to arrive somewhere. Some finished version of themselves where they finally have it together. Tender strength says, I'm here. This is where I am, and that's enough for now. So here's the question. What would it cost you to be a little more tender? Not with everyone, not all the time. Just in one place where you've been rigid. One relationship where you've been performing strength instead of actually being strong. One conversation where you could say what's true instead of what's safe. You don't have to overhaul your whole life. Just one crack in the armor. That's enough. Your breath. Check in with it again. Is it tight? Can you let it soften? Not a big deep breath, just a little more space. Even your breathing can carry armor. Shallow, held, controlled. Or it can carry tenderness. Slow, full, easy. You know what's interesting? The moments you remember most are usually moments of tenderness. Not the promotions, not the achievements, not the times you toughed it out. The moment someone really listened to you. The time someone held you when you didn't ask. The conversation where someone finally told you the truth. Those moments stay with you because they were real. No performance, no armor, just two people being honest. That's what people remember about you too. Not the times you were impressive. The times you were real. And here's the thing about tender strength: it's contagious. When you drop the armor, you give other people permission to drop theirs. When you say, "I'm struggling," someone nearby exhales because they are too. When you admit you don't have it all figured out, the pressure in the room drops. Hardness breeds hardness, but tenderness, real tenderness backed by strength, creates space. Space for honesty, space for connection, space for people to be who they actually are instead of who they think they need to be. The world needs more of this. Not people who never break, people who break and keep going. Not people who are never afraid, people who are afraid and show up anyway. Not people who have all the answers, people who can say, "I don't know," and mean it. That's not the absence of strength. That's the fullness of it. Carry this with you today. You don't have to choose between being strong and being tender. They're not opposites. They're the same thing expressed honestly. Strength without tenderness is just a wall. Tenderness without strength collapses under pressure. But together, they're what lets you stay in the room, stay in the conversation, stay in your life. Without armor, without running, and still standing. Not just in meditation, but in everything. Start to notice the sounds around you. Whatever is there, close or far, let them arrive without any story about them. Feel the temperature of the air on your face, on your hands. Feel the weight of your body, solid and real. You are here. You are whole. You don't need the armor right now. When you're ready, let your eyes open. No rush. take this with you. The strongest thing you can do today is stay soft. Thank you for practicing with me today. See you next time, because meditation should be free.